The desperate signal Dr. Zara Thorne pressed her palm against the cool metal wall of the medical bay, feeling the vibrations that told her everything she needed to know. The healing dawn was dying. Around her, the soft blue glow of Zenthari medical equipment flickered like candles in a storm, and the gentle hum of life support systems stuttered with each passing minute. "Doctor, we're losing another patient in Bay 7, called Nurse Kailana, her 4 arms moving frantically over a Valdorian child who couldn't have been more than 6 years old. The little one's breathing was shallow, her silvery skin turning pale from lack of oxygen. Zara moved quickly between the rows of injured civilians, her human hands steady despite the chaos around her. She had been the only human aboard the Healing Dawn when the Kepler colony disaster struck, serving as part of an experimental medical exchange program. Now she was trapped with 5,000 wounded souls, flying through space in a ship that was falling apart around them. The Healing Dawn had been beautiful once. A gleaming medical transport designed by the Zenthari Collective. It could carry entire populations to safety while providing advanced medical care. Its bioluminescent walls had once pulsed with calming colors, and its gravity generators had kept everyone comfortable during the journey. But that was before the Vorthak Empire decided that wounded civilians made acceptable targets. Captain Veltar's voice crackled over the intercom, his usually melodious Zenthari accent strained with exhaustion. "All medical staff, please report to your stations. We have multiple system failures across decks 12 through 18. Zara looked up at the nearest speaker, noting how the captain's voice carried that particular tone that commanders used when they were trying not to panic their crew. She had heard it before during her time with the medical corps on colony worlds. It was the sound of someone trying to hold everything together when everything was falling apart. In the engineering section, Chief Engineer Raxel slammed his 6-fingered fist against a control panel that refused to respond. The Nokari were known throughout the galaxy for their technical expertise, but even Raxel's considerable skills couldn't work miracles with damaged equipment and depleted power cells. "Captain," Raxel called through his throat speaker, his voice carrying the harmonic undertones that made Nokari speech sound like music. "Main fusion reactor is operating at 12% capacity. Life support systems are failing on 7 decks. We have maybe 6 hours before the artificial gravity generators shut down completely." Through the transparent aluminum viewing ports, space looked different than it had just days ago. The stars seemed colder somehow, more distant. Behind them, barely visible as dark shapes against the cosmic background, the Vorthak interceptor ships continued their relentless pursuit. The Vorthak Empire had built their reputation on efficiency and ruthlessness. Their ships were angular and predatory, designed to inspire fear in anyone who saw them. Unlike most galactic civilizations, the Vorthak saw no distinction between military targets and civilian vessels. To them, everyone who wasn't Vorthak was either a resource to be harvested or an obstacle to be removed. "Dr. Thorne to the bridge," came Captain Veltar's voice again. "Please report to the bridge immediately." Zara handed her current patient over to a Zenthari medic and made her way through corridors that groaned with each micro-impact from space debris. The artificial gravity fluctuated as she walked, making her feel momentarily weightless before slamming her feet back to the deck plates. The bridge of the Healing Dawn was a circular chamber with stations arranged around a central holographic display. The Zenthari had designed it to promote calm decision-making, with soft curves and organic shapes that were supposed to reduce stress. Now those same curves were cracked, and several of the bioluminescent panels had gone dark entirely. "Captain." Veltar stood at the center of the bridge, his tall, graceful form hunched with exhaustion. The Zenthari captain's skin, normally a peaceful blue-green, had taken on darker hues that Zara recognized as signs of extreme stress in his species. "Doctor," Veltar said without turning around, "how many patients do you estimate we'll lose if life support fails?" Zara considered the question carefully. "In the current configuration? All of them. The injured need full atmospheric pressure and regulated temperature. Without life support, even the healthy passengers won't survive more than a few hours." Navigation. Officer Jexri looked up from her station, her large eyes reflecting the dim emergency lighting. Captain, the Vorthak ships are gaining. They'll be within weapon range in 4 hours, maybe less. Veltar's hands moved over the command interface, pulling up star charts and tactical displays. The holographic projection showed their current position on the edge of the Kepler system, with the pursuing Vorthak fleet marked as red symbols that seemed to pulse with malevolent energy. There, Veltar pointed to a dark area on the star chart, the Terran exclusion zone, the forbidden sectors where the Council sealed away the humans after first contact. Zara felt a chill that had nothing to do with the failing environmental systems. Every species in the galaxy knew about the Terran exclusion zone. When humanity had been discovered 50 years ago, they had seemed like any other primitive species. Then the Vorthak Empire had decided to test their military might against the newcomers. The war had lasted 3 days. In those 3 days, humanity had demonstrated why evolution on a death world created very different kinds of creatures. The Galactic Council had been so terrified by human military capability that they had quarantined the entire Sol system, hoping to contain what they saw as an existential threat. Captain, Communications Officer Nexal said quietly, regulations strictly forbid contact with the quarantine zone. The penalties for violating the exclusion zone are death, Veltar finished. Yes, I know, but look around us, Nexal. We're already dying. The question is whether we die quietly or we ask for help. Zara stepped forward, her human perspective offering something the others might be missing. Captain, what exactly do you know about humans? Veltar's skin pattern shifted to darker blues, a sign of deep thought in Zenthari body language. The reports say they are aggressive, territorial, and possess military technology beyond their apparent development level. They destroyed an entire Vorthak battle fleet in less than 72 hours. And that's what frightens the Council, Zara said softly. But Captain, I am human. Do I seem aggressive to you? The bridge crew turned to look at her, and Zara could see the moment when they really considered her species for the first time. She had been working alongside them for months, healing their sick, comforting their wounded, risking her own life to save others. She was still human, but she was also their colleague and friend. Send the signal, Veltar decided. Full spectrum, distress call. Include our situation, our passenger manifest, and our location. If the humans want to ignore us, that's their choice. But at least we'll have tried. Nexal's tentacles moved over her communication console with practiced efficiency. The distress signal went out on all frequencies, a simple message asking for help from anyone who might be listening. The signal traveled at the speed of light toward the dark sectors of space where humanity waited behind their enforced boundaries. Signal transmitted, Captain, Nexal reported. Full power burst on all emergency frequencies. They waited in tense silence, watching the tactical display where the Vorthak ships continued their approach. The predatory vessels had spread into a hunting formation, preparing to surround and destroy the defenseless medical transport. Captain, called sensor operator Kethun from his station. I'm detecting massive power readings from the direction of the exclusion zone. Multiple contacts moving at incredible speed. On the main display, new symbols began to appear. Ships emerging from the darkness between stars, their energy signatures unlike anything in the galactic database. The contacts multiplied rapidly, first 5, then 10, then 20 ships appearing as if from nowhere. How many? Veltar asked, his voice barely a whisper. 42 ships and counting, sir, Kethun reported. Captain, these power readings are beyond anything I've ever seen. Some of these vessels are putting out more energy than an entire system defense fleet. Through the bridge's viewing ports, they could see lights in the distance, not the cold blue of Vorthak engines or the warm yellow of Zenthari drives, but brilliant white points of light that moved with purpose and precision. Raxel's voice came over the intercom from engineering. Captain, I'm detecting massive gravitational distortions. Whatever's coming our way, they're using some kind of space-folding technology. They're traveling faster than anything should be able to travel. The human ships emerged from hyperspace like thunder made visible. They appeared in perfect formation, their dark hulls bristling with weapon systems that looked both advanced and somehow primitive at the same time. These weren't the elegant curves of most galactic civilizations, but Angular, purposeful designs built for a single function. War. Sweet stars preserve us, whispered Jexri. What have we done? The lead ship was massive, easily 3 times the size of the largest Vorthak vessel. Its hull bore markings that the translation computer couldn't interpret, and energy readings that suggested it could destroy entire planets if necessary. Put it through, Veltar ordered. The bridge speakers crackled with static, and then a voice spoke in clear, unaccented galactic standard. It was a human voice, but unlike Zara's, this one carried the unmistakable authority of command. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet. We received your distress call. Are there wounded aboard your vessel? Veltar looked at Zara, who nodded encouragingly. This is Captain Veltar of the medical transport Healing Dawn. We have 5,000 wounded civilians aboard and are being pursued by Vorthak interceptors. Our life support is failing. There was a pause, and when Admiral Chen spoke again, her voice carried a coldness that made everyone on the bridge shiver. Captain Veltar, we show hostile vessels approaching your position. Are those the ships that have been attacking civilians? Yes, Admiral. The Vorthak Empire has been targeting refugee vessels and medical transports. We're the only ship to escape the massacre at Kepler Colony. Another pause, this one longer. Then Admiral Chen's voice returned, and this time there was something different in her tone, something that made the emergency lighting on the bridge seem brighter, and the failing system seem less important. Captain Veltar, this is Admiral Chen. Help is on the way. We're going to take care of those Vorthak ships, and then we're going to get your people the medical attention they need. Just hold on a little longer. The human fleet began to move, and Zara watched through the viewing port as 42 ships arranged themselves between the Healing Dawn and the approaching Vorthak interceptors. She realized that her own species, the ones that the galaxy feared so much, had just traveled across forbidden space to answer a cry for help. On the medical decks below, 5,000 wounded civilians waited for salvation or destruction. Above them, 2 fleets prepared for battle, and in the space between, a human doctor finally understood why her people had been quarantined. It wasn't because they were too dangerous to be allowed among civilized species. It was because they were exactly the kind of dangerous that civilized species needed when civilization itself was under attack. Thunder answers. Mercy Admiral Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Thunderbolt, her hands clasped behind her back as she studied the tactical display. The 42 ships of Battle Group 7 spread out in perfect formation around her flagship, their hulls gleaming with the deadly beauty of human military engineering. Admiral, called Captain Marcus Torres from the communication station. The medical transport is falling apart. I'm reading massive system failures across their entire vessel. They won't last much longer. Chen nodded grimly, her experienced eyes taking in the tactical situation. The Healing Dawn drifted helplessly between 2 forces, a wounded bird caught between predators and protectors. Behind it, the Vorthak interceptors moved with the confident swagger of hunters who had never faced real opposition. Dr. Vasquez, Chen called to the chief medical officer. What can you tell me about the casualties aboard that transport? Dr. Elena Vasquez looked up from her medical scanners, her face grim. 5,000 wounded, Admiral. Mixed species mostly. Civilians from the Kepler Colony disaster. Without immediate medical intervention, we're looking at massive casualties within hours. Chen had read the reports about Kepler Colony, an entire world reduced to radioactive ash because the Vorthak Empire had decided to test a new weapon system on a defenseless population. 2 million people had died in the initial attack, and the survivors had been fleeing through space ever since, only to be hunted down by the same monsters who had destroyed their world. Admiral, came the voice of Commander Liu from the sensor station. The Vorthak ships are hailing us. Should we respond? Put them through, Chen ordered. Her voice carried the calm authority that had seen humanity through 50 years of isolation, 50 years of building and preparing for the day when they would once again walk among the stars. The main screen flickered and the bridge of a Vorthak interceptor appeared, The commanding officer was typical of his species, tall, insectoid, with compound eyes that reflected no emotion and mandibles that clicked when he spoke. His translator rendered his words into flat, mechanical, galactic standard. Unknown vessels, you are interfering with legitimate Vorthak military operations. Withdraw immediately or face the consequences. Chen stepped forward, and every human on the bridge could see the change in her posture. She was no longer just an admiral giving orders to her fleet. She had become something else entirely, a representative of a species that had been caged for 50 years and was finally free to show the galaxy what they were truly capable of. This is Admiral Sarah Chen of the United Earth Defense Fleet. You are attacking a medical vessel carrying wounded civilians. Cease your attack and withdraw from this sector immediately. The Vorthak commander's mandibles clicked in what might have been laughter. Earth vessels? The quarantined Deathworlders? You should have stayed in your cage, humans. We will destroy you along with the medical transport. Chen's expression didn't change, but everyone on the bridge felt the temperature drop several degrees. Commander, you have attacked civilians, you have targeted medical vessels. You have committed acts that my species considers war crimes. I am giving you one opportunity to withdraw from this engagement. Your threats mean nothing, the Vorthak officer replied. We have 15 ships to your pathetic force. Surrender, now, and we may allow some of you to live as slaves. Chen looked at the tactical display, noting the positions of all the Vorthak vessels. 15 ships against 42 should have been a massacre, but she knew that the Vorthak commander was thinking in terms of traditional galactic warfare. He had no idea what he was about to face. Very well, Chen said calmly. All ships, weapons free. Show them why the galaxy put us in quarantine. The human fleet moved like a single organism, each ship taking its assigned position with precision that spoke of countless hours of training and preparation. The Vorthak ships, confident in their superiority, accelerated toward the human formation. They never stood a chance. The first volley from the human fleet lit up space like a newborn star. Railguns, plasma cannons, and missile pods spoke with a voice that had been silent for 50 years. The Vorthak interceptors, built for intimidation rather than actual combat, began to disintegrate under the focused fire of weapons designed by a species that had survived on a world where everything tried to kill everything else. Direct hit on the lead Vorthak vessel, reported Tactical Officer Kim. Their shields are down and I'm reading massive structural damage. 3 more Vorthak ships neutralized, added Commander Torres. They're trying to retreat. On the main screen, the Vorthak fleet scattered like insects exposed to sudden light. Their formation dissolved as each ship tried to escape the devastating firepower that humanity had brought to bear. 2 more interceptors exploded in brilliant flashes as human missiles found their targets. Admiral, came a new voice over the communication system. It was Captain Veltar from the medical transport. Admiral Chen, the Vorthak ships are withdrawing. You saved us. Not yet, Captain, Chen replied. We still have 5,000 people who need medical attention. Dr. Vasquez, prepare for emergency medical transfer operations. Dr. Vasquez was already moving, her medical teams preparing for the largest humanitarian operation in recent galactic history. Admiral, I'll need at least 6 hours to stabilize the critical cases and transfer them to our medical bays. You'll have all the time you need, Chen promised. She turned to the tactical station. Commander Torres, establish a defensive perimeter around the medical transport. Any Vorthak ship that approaches gets turned into scrap metal. As the human fleet arranged itself around the damaged Healing Dawn, medical shuttles began launching from the larger ships. Each shuttle carried teams of human doctors and medical technicians, along with equipment that would have seemed miraculous to most galactic civilizations. Dr. Zara Thorne was waiting in the docking bay when the first shuttle arrived. She watched as the airlock cycled open and a team of human medics stepped aboard the alien vessel. The team leader was a woman about her own age, with the confident bearing of someone accustomed to saving lives under impossible conditions. Dr. Thorne? The team leader asked. I'm Dr. Sarah Kim from the UES Thunderbolt Medical Division. We're here to help. Zara felt tears she didn't know she was capable of forming. For months, she had been the only human in a ship full of aliens, trying to save lives with equipment she barely understood using techniques that weren't designed for human hands. Now, suddenly, she was no longer alone. The critical cases are on decks 7 through 12, Zara said, her voice thick with emotion. We've got multiple species with different physiological requirements, and some injuries I've never seen before. Dr. Kim nodded, already pulling out a medical scanner that looked decades ahead of anything the Healing Dawn carried. We've studied the medical files of every known species in the galaxy. Whatever you've got, we can treat it. As human medical teams spread throughout the Healing Dawn, something remarkable began to happen. Equipment that had been failing for days suddenly sprang back to life as human engineers worked alongside their alien counterparts. The bioluminescent walls began to pulse with healthy light again, and the gravity generators stabilized for the first time in weeks. On the bridge, Captain Veltar watched the tactical display as human ships maintained their protective formation. Admiral Chen had been true to her word. Any Vorthak vessel that approached was driven off by weapons fire that seemed to bend the laws of physics. "Captain," said Communications Officer Nexal, "I'm receiving messages from 17 different star systems. News of the battle is spreading fast. Everyone wants to know about the humans." Through the viewing ports, the human fleet looked like nothing so much as a pack of predators protecting their young. The ships were angular and aggressive, bristling with weapon systems that spoke of a species that had learned to fight for survival. But they were using all that deadly capability to save lives rather than take them. Dr. Vasquez arrived on the Q bridge of the Healing Dawn after 6 hours of non-stop medical operations. Her uniform was stained with the blood of a dozen different species, and her face showed the exhaustion of someone who had just performed miracles. "Captain Veltar," she said, accepting a cup of Zenthari tea with grateful hands. "We've stabilized all the critical cases and transferred about half your patients to our medical bays. The rest are stable enough to continue treatment aboard your own vessel with our equipment." Veltar's skin patterns shifted to the warm blues and greens that indicated deep gratitude in Zenthari body language. "Dr. Vasquez, how can we ever repay this kindness?" Dr. Vasquez smiled, and in that smile was something that would change galactic politics forever. "Captain, we don't do this for payment. We do it because it's right. Because when someone calls for help, you answer." Admiral Chen appeared on the communication screen, her weathered face showing satisfaction at a job well done. "Captain Veltar, we're prepared to escort your vessel to any destination you choose. Where would you like to take your people?" Veltar considered the question. The Kepler survivors had nowhere to go. Their world was gone, destroyed by the very ships that had been hunting them through space. They were refugees in the truest sense, people without a home who carried everything they owned in cargo holds, meant for supplies. "Admiral," Veltar said slowly, "we have no destination. The Kepler colony was our home, and it no longer exists." Chen nodded thoughtfully. "Captain, I'm going to make you an offer, and I want you to consider it carefully. The Sol system has room for refugees. We've spent 50 years building new worlds, new colonies, new places where people can start over. If your people want sanctuary, we can provide it." The bridge of the Healing Dawn fell silent. Every species in the galaxy knew that the Sol system was forbidden territory, quarantined by order of the Galactic Council. To enter that system meant exile from civilized space forever. "Admiral," Veltar said carefully, "accepting your offer would mean that we could never return to Council space." "That's true," Chen admitted. "But Captain, look around you. The Council stood by and watched while the Vorthak Empire murdered civilians. They quarantined us for being too dangerous, but they didn't quarantine the Vorthak for being too evil. Ask yourself, which civilization would you rather be part of?" Dr. Zara Thorne stepped forward, her voice carrying clearly across the bridge. "Captain, I've been living among my own species for the past day. I can tell you that humans have spent 50 years building something beautiful in that quarantined space. Not just weapons, but hospitals and schools and cities where people of any species can live in safety." Veltar looked around at his crew, seeing the same thought in every face. They had sent a distress call into the darkness, and the darkness had answered with light. The species that the galaxy feared most had risked everything to save strangers, asking for nothing in return except the opportunity to help. "Admiral Chen," Veltar said finally, "on behalf of the survivors of Kepler Colony, we accept your offer of sanctuary." Chen smiled, and in that moment the quarantine that had lasted 50 years finally came to an end. Not through conquest or diplomacy, but through simple human decency and the universal language of mercy. "Welcome to the family, Captain," Chen said. "All ships set course for Sol. We're going home." As the human fleet formed up around the healing dawn, news of the rescue spread across the galaxy at the speed of light. The quarantined Deathworlders had emerged from their exile not as conquerors, but as saviors. They had shown the galaxy what humans truly were beneath the weapons and the warrior culture. They were protectors, and the galaxy would never be the same.